behalf of Biz Talk Today TV and CrossCheck Media, welcome everyone to Buy, Hold, Sell. I am your trader, Todd Schoenberger, and I am joined by my friend and co-host, Tobin Smith, who is coming to us from his brand new house in Scottsdale.
Yes.
Toby, how was the move? Everything go okay?
Oh my God. You know, if you're Josh's age, or Mr. Pantony's age, I should say, moving, who cares? We have a flight of stairs. First off, I lost 4 pounds, Todd. I want you to know that. Secondarily, I feel like an old POS. I mean, I'm getting a Thai massage with my wife tomorrow because we can't walk very well.
Love it. Love it. Well, I got to tell you, we have a great guest, so sit back and relax because
yes, I am.
Our CEO Spotlight shows, Toby, have been off the charts. We've had so many great CEOs join us on Buy, Hold, Sell, and we have another one today. Josh Pantony. He is the CEO and co-founder of Boosted.ai. And Josh is coming to us from Toronto, Canada. We are going international, Toby. Josh.
I mean, dude, all you had to do is look at his face and knew he was from the Great White North, for crying out loud.
There you go.
Super
Josh,
exotic location.
Buy, Hold, Sell.
Yeah.
So great to have you, Josh. So
great to be here.
Great. So, Josh, this Boosted AI, very unique. It's actually catering to the financial services sector, and everybody knows that watches this show, they're looking for conversations regarding Wall Street. So tell the audience, how did you get started with Boosted AI?
Well, I've been in the space for a long time. My first company, Maluba, we're basically like a Siri competitor. We powered a whole bunch of very large mobile providers that eventually got bought by Microsoft, turned into an AI division. I also did a stint at Bloomberg, helped kickstart a whole bunch of machine learning initiatives there, and then ultimately started this company. And our thesis is kind of, if you look at a huge portion of investment management, a lot of it could be described as synthesize large amounts of information and then pass that synthesis on to another human being and sort of monitor things on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
That's something where we think the technology exists to automate now. We actually estimate as much as 50% of investment management work could be automated.
Josh, I was just talking with Josh before we got on. When I started, as a bottom of the ladder, analyst, OMG. Hey, Toby, listen, we need the 14 10Ks about this. Need you to look at this. I need you to then give me a detailed analysis. And I need this. Well, it's 9 o'clock. I need it by 2. And people quit. I mean, literally people quit because they just couldn't handle it. They weren't, obviously as smart as I was. And so when I heard about your service, I was like, boy, let me tell you what, if you're going to Harvard and daddy's not paying, if you think you're going to start off being a low-end analyst, those jobs are going away. And it makes sense. It is just rote work. It's data crunching that AI would do a lot better. So tell us how much better you are than those 23-year-old Harvard grads.
I like to think of it more as the nature of work changing. He
knows what a euphemism is, Todd. That's already
the way I kind of describe it is you sort of teach our system a workflow. So maybe you're someone who looks at gold companies. You look at resource statements, and you want to know which companies can extract gold cheap or more expensive, and you want it to constantly look for any kind of gold intercepts or something like that. So you could
or their 4031B test valuations.
Whatever it is, you come in, you teach it some kind of task, and it's going to do that task on a continuous basis. To your point, it doesn't eat, it doesn't sleep, it's doing it constantly. It can read tens of millions of words nonstop. So it has some advantages over the human. The flip side, though, is that the human advantages actually change a lot. An AI still can't eat a product. An AI still can't do a management call. There's certain types of detective work that an AI can't do.
Yes, I've done 2 calls recently where people are like using the system I use that does everything, takes all the words and puts it together for you and then gives you a summary. I've been on calls where the person who was organizing the call said, well, just FYI for you actual human beings, about 20% of the people on this call are essentially AI agents or one of the services. So it's coming, brother. It's coming.
Yeah. I still think my thesis is as a rule, humans are going to have an advantage when it comes to human-human interaction. Chess has been automated since the 90s. We still like to watch professional chess players. We've had an
Even
automobile.
even though they're cheaters?
We love the cheaters.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, Josh. Who are your clients?
So we mostly deal with hedge funds. We deal with asset managers, banks, and then we've got a whole bunch of investment advisors as well. So really, anyone managing a large amount of capital, you're an ideal client for our platform.
So are they buying the software, or how does it work?
No, it's by the gulp.
So yeah, you basically come in. It's very similar to buying other software as a service products. You buy it after purchasing a login. We'll basically charge by the amount of usage. So really, our objective is to come in, find some really painful things that you really don't want to do, automate that, and basically you pay us based on the amount of pain that we're reducing.
Well, I mean, here's an example. So I have Transformative Wealth Management. We manage money for people.
Yeah.
It's either ultra growth or it's ultra income. I would love to take what we currently own, both in those, and then what we're currently looking at in both those segments, and send it to you to just I guess 24/7 get red flags or green flags on those portfolios. Is that a reasonable request?
100%. And you can absolutely use our system to do sort of like classic analysis, but you could also have it scan through the world. And anytime that there's or if there's a tsunami that hits in Thailand that affects some of the factory holdings of some of your companies or some of the supply chain.
Oh yeah.
That kind of stuff, because it's looking through so much information, because it has such a good model of the world, it can find things like that really, really quickly and notify you faster than other systems.
All right, here's another question, because now I'm going to be a customer. I guarantee this. Let's say that in shipping, so I subscribe to shipping websites that track day rates for all types of shipping, all types of routes, etc. If I have a subscription to that, can I plug my API into yours so you can monitor that?
Yeah. So like maritime data, I mean, truck boards are another really good example of that, right? So truck boards, like a lot of times, truckers and other groups will come on and say, here's the kind of stuff that we want to have distributed across the country. And if there's a whole bunch of stuff there that hasn't been moved, that's maybe a bad sign. If it's getting picked up really quickly, that's maybe a good sign. Like, yeah, the kind of data you can integrate into this is endless.
Well, now I'm we have a strike here in the United States. First time in 50 years that all the ports are closed on the East Coast, all the way around to Texas, by the way.
Yeah, the Gulf as well.
Yeah. So, dude, if I'm an importer and I want to know what the F is going on with my stuff, and I'm not getting real time because it's closed down. Yeah. That seems like a use case too. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic example, actually, because you could have it look at all the local news for every single port. You could have it look at foot traffic. You could have it look at, everything going on all at once. And the second looks like there's going to be some kind of break, it'll let you know.
Todd, I'm getting shivers.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. So do you have any competitors? Because this sounds like, I mean, I don't think Bloomberg can do this, though. That's the only one I could come to think of that might be able to compete with you on this. But are there any real competitors that you're facing right now?
So I tend to think of our product as adding kind of 3 different teacups of value. Value number 1 is we can automate drudgery. We can take a basic task like writing an investment thesis or doing a SWOT analysis, and we can basically automate completely. The second is monitoring. If you're really concerned about a port strike and you want to analyze every piece of context related to it, we can do that for you. And then the third is what I call superpowers, where, let's say if NVIDIA has a chip delay. In the old world, you'd look at analyst reports for NVIDIA. You'd maybe look at earnings calls from NVIDIA. With our technology, you could look through the earnings calls for thousands of companies all at once, summarize the main macro knock-on effects of those chip delays, and then also figure out how many companies are positive or negative on NVIDIA right now.
Okay, here's what I want. I don't care about English language stuff. I subscribe to all that shit, and I have a Bloomberg. But I want to know in China and in Taiwan, because that's where you're going to know, before it gets to the United States, that the H100 chip from NVIDIA just got locked out, and now they're sending back 250,000, and it's going to be written in Chinese, and I'm not going to get it.
Yeah. People are going to start thinking I like fed you guys these questions or something.
No.
So that's that's another amazing example. This technology can be really powerful. So we bring in over 200,000 data sources. This includes Chinese
really?
data,
Oh my
Japanese
gosh.
data. This includes international context. But one of the things that's going to be really interesting is actually looking at sell-side reports. There's a pretty significant ownership of NVIDIA, as an example, that comes out of China. And they'll tend to talk about things like BYD, like local manufacturers, local automakers and things like that, which get a little bit less coverage over here. And so being able to integrate Chinese data, Japanese data, numerical, text, whatever, and have a system synthesize it all together, that's a really good example of that superpower use case that, again, people would have loved to have been able to do before.
Oh my
and
gosh.
now can do really easily.
Well, Todd, we got to send this to Harvard, Wharton, Oxford, and the other guys to say if you want to start out at the bottom of Goldman Sachs research department, which is, by the way, literally on the bottom floor. I'd think before your parents write the next $85,000 check.
Well, it is. You are a category killer. There's no doubt about it. So I mean, we'll get into the future of the sector and AI, et cetera, and all of that. But I mean, I'm going to ask you some really stupid questions here, Josh. So
that's the only ones that Todd asked, Josh. It's just...
But Toby's very, very he's up to speed on this. He has the intelligence to understand the whole AI component. What I'm trying to understand, though, is for the retail investor. Now, if a Schwab advisor is going to be giving me this information, what exactly, I mean, from the retail side, because I'm looking just at maybe the 50-day moving average. I mean, like these data points seem very institutionalized. So something for, maybe for a hedge fund. I mean, but do you have something, I guess, on the lower tier for the retail side?
Yeah, see, it's interesting talking about retail. We did a survey recently, and we went out and we wanted to really understand the implications of technology we were building, and we thought, why not go to our customers, and see what they're saying about it. So I think a really interesting stat is 2/3 of people, millennials and Gen Z that are making 100K or more, are actually using AI on a weekly basis.
Oh yeah.
And the sort of corollary is about 80% of that group expects their financial advisor. When you start incorporating this kind of technology, even the basic version of it, into your process, your level of education on these issues starts to increase. And the expectation is if you're dealing with a financial expert, they need to be operating at an equal or higher level. They need a better version of the technology in order to empower themselves.
All right, Josh, look, first off, your camera's freezing about every 4 minutes, so pay your bill. Second, I have a media publishing company that publishes equity research, buy, sell, hold to 80% retail, 20% institutional.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to resell your service on a basis that covers our stuff. So that people would be able to get this, because they're going to get it faster. I'm going to get it the same time I'm getting it, and we're going to send out a text that says, "Hey, this just happened." But people would pay, and I'm speaking for the financial publishing industry, would pay to be able to have your service private labeled under Transformative Research Wire, let's call it, Research Wire, and resell it, but on a very focused basis for the stuff that we follow. And then if there's other stocks they want to, follow, tickers, et cetera, then they could add to that. And I become a reseller. I want to be the first reseller.
There you go. He's the
test. I think there's some really interesting use cases around that. One thing is we've got a few customers that have started to use our technology to sort of build custom ETFs. So if you want to build like a water scarcity ETF or a generative AI ETF, we're using generative AI to find generative AI opportunities. We can do that. But the other interesting thing is you can also then use our system to actually write commentary on what's happening with that ETF, to explain every investment decision and exactly why it occurred.
Brilliant.
And so you can kind of, traditionally, I think ETFs have been very opaque. This is a way now to make it very transparent. But yeah, I absolutely think the other side of the house that you're talking about makes a ton of sense too. There's a lot of like really interesting things.
Yeah, there's a number of tech-only ETFs. There's a brand new tech ETF that came out yesterday, Todd, from holy mackerel, I can't remember. Anyway, but it would be a perfect application there. So now here's my question. And my other question is, when I become your first reseller, the customization,
come on, spit it out.
Yeah, the customization is going to be as key. I mean, I write code with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Me, Todd. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't write a damn thing. I say, here's what I want you to do, and I want you to include this, this, and this. Click, and then now I have the basic code. So I can put a front end on your on your front end or your back end as well, because it'll feed my it'll feed my the little app that I've built.
Right?
And that makes it really cool as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the really
I do Python. I just want you to know that, Todd. I do Python.
Wow, I'm really impressed. I did not think I was going to be in this interview talking about Python. That's
You think you're dealing with kids here? Come on.
But that's actually I think another really interesting point is number one, we think the ability to kind of download your brain into the machine and sort of teach it how you think and have it replicate your process is really important. And then number two, we think the auditability of the technology, where it can explain every decision that it's made, why it made that decision, what information it looked at, where it sourced its facts from, is also really important. And those are big areas that we've invested in heavily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would even add to it that when there's two things when you're looking for research. One is you get something and you have no idea what it means. And then secondarily, you think you know what it means, but you sort of like to have a third party, step in.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is, in this world of fake news and, liars, cheats, and everything else, can you imagine if they were doing a debate, Todd, and in real time it was streaming those words, all the words out of his mouth? They're eating dogs in Peoria, and bing, it comes up. No, here's the sighting.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Right. No, I got it. And you're right about that. So listen, let's close it out on this block because we have to ask Josh about the future. AI is the future, but it's likely we're just in the infant stages of it. So what is going to be next, and what can those investors out there expect? So with us today is Josh Pantony. He is the CEO and co-founder of Boosted.ai. We invite the audience to go to Boosted.ai to learn more about the company and all about Josh. But we'll be right back after the break. Please stay with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.
Welcome back to Buy, Hold, Sell.
See?
I know, right?
See?
This is great. Welcome back to Buy, Hold, Sell. Well, with us today, we have Josh Pantony. He is the CEO and co-founder of Boosted.ai. And I got to say, we have so many exciting things that are happening off screen here that we wish the audience could actually watch this. It's fantastic. And we have so much more to get to with Josh as well. So Josh, you were just telling us all about all of the services, everything that you guys offer from the technology aspect. Let's talk about the company. I want to put my investment banking hat on right now. Now, I know you have some backing from some VC money that's there. What are the hopes for the company, though, long term? Are you thinking about maybe going public?
Yeah. So I think this technology, the way I sort of think about it is it's actually kind of similar to what the Bloomberg terminal was when it first got started. Right? Where the early users had unprecedented visibility into the bond market. It made them more efficient, faster than their peers. And it was really, an alpha advantage. It was a way to get ahead. Today, nobody thinks about the Bloomberg terminal as a way to get ahead. It's a high watermark. It's something you need to even be considered a professional.
Right.
I see our technology going the same way. Today we have several hundred users. We're growing extremely fast. And generally speaking, for our early users, this is a huge advantage. It gives them a massive speed advantage over other people.
Yeah.
3 years, 4 years out, though, I think this will be ubiquitous. I think that this is going to be something you need to be able to operate in the space. And our goal and objective is to be that company and to ultimately someday IPO. So I want to go public
I absolutely agree. I can help you with those IPOs, and you're going to come not in Canada. You're going to come public in the United States. Okay?
I agree with that too.
All right. Canada's the only stock exchange where I can naked short a stock, because we have one that got hit by this, and with the no uptick rule, which means that you can short anything anytime. It's the worst system in the world. And then you have Cedar, which is the worst. You should just talk to Cedar and get their act together, okay? That's got to be worth $10 million a year or $20 million a year. I want a piece of that deal.
Hey, Josh, well, I'm just curious, what's the price point for a seat license? I mean, are you competitive with Bloomberg?
Yeah, I think, again, what makes us a little bit different than Bloomberg is just that usage component, right?
Yeah.
So we have a platform access fee that would be similar to how Bloomberg would operate. But then we've got this whole other element where, based on the amount of time we're saving you, the amount of work that we're saving you, it could be a little bit more variable.
But you measure that how? By consumption?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, it's the amount of how much we're analyzing on your behalf, right? So you could have someone who is doing more quantitative users who's doing transactions throughout the day, where they may want the system to read through hundreds of millions of words in a single day. That is going to be priced very differently than if you're an investment advisor who just wants a portfolio commentary once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it basically equates down to how much have we analyzed, how much data have we analyzed, and how much have we produced for you?
Yeah, I mean, remember in the United States, the RIAs, most of them don't run money. They run managers, or they run funds, funds, et cetera. And if you ask them what stocks they have in those funds, I bet you dollars to donuts. That's my favorite Canadianism. I'm married to a Canuck, all right? So I understand the out. I understand the outs. I feel out. But they don't, trust me when I tell you this. I've worked with thousands of registered representatives / RIAs.
Yeah.
They're good at two things. They're good at schmoozing, and they're good at retaining customers when the market goes to hell.
Yeah.
But they're not, 1 out of 100 is really detail oriented. I just talked to a guy yesterday who still thinks JDS Uniface is a public company. I mean, really. But the synopsis, the ability to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we'll have our Zoom call for our annual quarterly, and I'm going to just go over some of the positions and what we like about them. And then she hits the button and gets it printed out for he or she. That is worthwhile. And if I'm Schwab, if I'm one of these other RIA companies, I would pay for my reps to have that ability. And obviously, you've thought of that, and you're probably doing it. But again, now that I'm a limited partner, I just want to manage, help as much as I can.
You're exactly right. The wealth manager use case is quite different than when we're going for portfolio managers, right? It would be more oriented around client communication. So looking at things like financial plans, understanding proactively how you're tracking, and then creating a commentary around why you're, well positioned for the future, why this basket's safe, why the current, 5% drawdown is a short-term thing, and why you're comfortable long-term. Increasing the wealth advisor's knowledge of the space, making it so they can answer questions really quickly, making part of the feat. And then the last category that's kind of interesting is, sometimes you get a client who comes in where, hey, I really want like direct exposure to generative AI, or I really want to, I want you to own something that's going to be related to active pets and is Catholic compliant or something like that. That's something that historically an investment advisor wouldn't want to invest overly too much time on, and would only really do it for their top end clients, or not at all. Now with this technology, you can suddenly build those kind of custom baskets really, really quickly without having to kind of think about it. So
Todd, all I can think of is someone who comes in and says, okay, look, I want a basket of stocks that doesn't have ESG orientation in there.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Them people
Yeah.
are going to talk like this a little bit, okay, Josh? Like,
Oh, quite a stereotype. Yeah.
yes, what a stereotype, I know. Well, some from Baltimore are that way too. But those type of parameters would be extremely, or just look at my portfolio, what I own, the stocks I own, and tell me if any of those ESG knuckleheads are in there.
Yeah, I don't even know how you would make an anti-ESG basket without us. That's a whole new advertisable use case.
Right.
Yeah, that is really smart.
Again, I want a royalty on that idea too. All right.
Hey, Josh. So let's talk about the future of AI. So, I mean, you started this. You had this idea, which clearly puts the financial services sector just right into the 21st century, right in the mix of it. But what's the future of AI? What else can the financial services sector expect from this rapid rise of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think, first at a high level, just across AI, I think products like products like ours are really the future. I think one of the interesting things about finance is there's a lot of workflows that repeat. Every time a company earnings call occurs, you've got a similar sequence of events you're going to do. Every time there's a corporate filing, there's a similar set of analysis you're going to do. If you think about something a little more basic like travel, every time you travel, it's a little different. If I'm doing a safari in Africa, the system needs to figure out like flights, it's got to figure out a local touring company, it's got to figure out a local hotel, etc. If I'm going to a resort in Mexico, just got to find the resort. If I'm going to Japan, it's something completely different. And so it was kind of, in some ways, it was harder from the standpoint of you have to be really good at finance and you need really good access to financial knowledge in order to build the technology stack that we have. But in some ways it was easier because there's a lot of things that repeat over and over again. But I really think technology like ours is the future. I think that we're going to go from a world where you prompt the machine to a world where the machine prompts you, where where your expectation is it's going to be consistently doing work for you on your behalf.
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce you to a client of mine called Versus AI. And Versus AI has Dr. Carl Friston, who is the dude of inference. And I thoroughly agree. If you tied up with their system as like the front end and or adjuncted, because that is what is going to be. There is no question about this. My question is, in your technology, are you still using a generative AI type of data set, or how do you work?
Yeah, so I like to describe it as kind of a large language model orchestra.
Okay. I like that. I'm writing that down. LLM orchestra.
And so the way it kind of works is you've got different types of LMs that are doing different tasks. You might have one whose job is basically to understand the conversation and the user intent, what the user wants. You might have another LM who's specialized at basically long-term reasoning and building out long-term plans, long-term analysis. That then might call sub-LM. So, let's say I wanted to get a bunch of Chinese sell-side data. There might be an LM that I know is really good at analyzing Chinese data. Let's say I wanted to do something like analyze the 10K. I know there's some LMs that are really good at, huge amounts of text. And then, at the other end, we've got some technology we've specialized to basically reduce mistakes. The technical verbiage we'd use is to reduce hallucinations. And so it's, you've gone from a world where it's one LM doing one task to a world where you've got a whole bunch of different LMs doing a whole bunch of different things all at the same time, all interacting together. And that's where this sort of exponential capability comes from.
That's the use case for Versus, because they have the ability to, we're doing a project in Abu Dhabi and their smart cities. And it's the Internet of Things. So it's the spatial web. They own the patents to that, etc. And in real time, what the street light here is, what the, this is with a fire truck that's coming, blah, 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 in real time. And that's what's, it's like making life the browser, which is really interesting. Now, second question is, who are you renting your space from? Are you an Amazon client? Are you a Microsoft client? Come on, give it up.
Yeah, I mean, we've got relationships with all three, but I would say we're probably closest with AWS.
AWS is, for what you're doing, that's what I'm trying to get at. For what you're doing, they're ahead of Google, and they're not inexpensive, but none of them are inexpensive. So, but that's another thing, Todd. He could have never done this 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so now that we have,
Yeah.
you know, what's the number? $35 trillion of money going into data centers, and so that's why we're long, you know, VTS, Vista Energy. We're long Talon Energy with nuclear power. We're long, you know, Eaton Power that builds. You know, to us, here's the question I'd like to ask your system. Okay, we bought SMCI at the equivalent of $34. It went to $1,100. How much overvalued is it? And they would say, "Are you kidding me? Sell that thing!" Right? Those type of decisions, just based on historical context. Yeah. Also, it would ping and say, "Geez, let me look at the other 100 stocks that have gone up 1,200% in a year. Yeah. How did they look a year later?"
Yeah, yeah, and I think
completely changed the game. Yeah, for me, because I can then also ask it. I don't have to type it, right? I can actually, yeah.
And I think one of the really powerful things too is you can use this to do both, you know, wide analysis right now, but I can also go in the past. I can say, tell me every time in the past there was a stock that looked like this.
Yes.
And what happened over the next year.
Yeah, it was called AOL. It started in 1995, or it was MicroStrategy, which we recommended at $10. It went to $334 while I was in vacation buying this picture behind me in France. I'm sort of God, you can't make that up. And I had shorted it. I mean, I hadn't shorted. I bought puts against my position, and I was skiing. And I got back, and I turned on my laptop. You know how, remember this, Todd?
Yes.
Right. We were rocking it like 1K of throughput.
Yeah. And
I see that my stock was $334 when I left for the ski lift, and when I came back, it was like 120. And then I looked at my put option, and I later met the guy who had bet against my put option on a Bulls and Bears show, Todd.
No kidding.
Yeah, and because he was talking about, I said, "What was it? Where's at trade you ever had?" I said, "Well, one time I shorted." Wait a minute, did you short for 120?
That's funny. That is amazing. Great.
But what you've described to me, someone who actually does this for a living, is mind-boggling. And again, the next private placement you're doing, I'm in. And I'd love to, I'd love to be a marketing agent for you out here, because we have 4,000 subscribers, but I have lots of other folks that when they could just see this future and come up with a price point that works for them. Would someone with a $2 million portfolio pay $50 a month just to get alerts in real time on their stuff? Hell yes.
Right.
I mean, absolutely, because it's just sleep at night. It's just, I sleep better at night knowing that I have portfolio guard, take that name down, and driven by your company. I could sell the crap out of that.
There you go. Get your resume ready. That's right. Got to send it on over. So, Josh, any final words for the audience? You want to give us an exclusive to tell everyone?
What's next? But you have a killer app, but now it's like you have killer apps, multiple killer apps. So what's your next killer app, son?
Yeah, I think the bigger thing for me is thinking about how to integrate this even deeper. We want to build technology that actually legitimately feels more like a team member or another coworker, and feels less like an application. So today you can come in, you can get it to build these really powerful automations that can, save you time, that can monitor things consistently or give you superpowers. But I want to get to the point where it's literally, if you've got Slack or IB or using some other kind of messaging system, it's literally someone that's there with you. And, today you go out and you talk to your analyst and you say, hey, how did the latest CPI report affect my portfolio? You could imagine our product basically being there saying, oh, hey, actually, I could get that report for you in 5 minutes. And, it's going to be a little more detailed. And here's a bunch of other context. And so if you start doing things like that, it becomes really natural, where it's just already integrating the workflow that already exist today.
And again, I can do it with a little microphone on my neck, right? So, or headphones. Can you imagine, Todd, that if your favorite presidential candidate wins and corporate rates are cut, tax rates are cut to 20%?
Yes.
Since I'm going to be a subscriber to your system, I'm going to ask what companies will save the most on an earnings per share basis when their tax rate is cut to 10% or whatever crazy fakakta thing he's going to do.
CrossCheck Media.
Yeah, that's that's a great example of a use case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
no
again,
doubt.
I don't know what Todd does during the day, but during the day, I'm deluged with all this stuff. And I have services, that will, do this and that, so on and so forth. But I need to manage the services because, I can still only do like 2 things at one time. And to be able to do 50 important things at one time in real time, 24/7.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, brother.
There you go. There you go. It's definitely the wave of the future. That's for sure. So, gentlemen, we're going to leave it right there because we learned so much about Boosted.ai. We want to welcome everyone to go check it out at Boosted.ai to learn everything, learn more, and take a look at this technology, which is really the category killer for financial services. So, Josh, you were a wonderful guest. We'd love to have you back on Buy, Hold, Sell. Thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah, well,
Perfect.
and by the way, I just sent you my my reseller agreement. So
you're awesome.
I'm in. This is like the happiest day of my limited life, or at least what's left.
Yes,
because it really answers a problem, et cetera. And now I can advise my nephews in finance school to do something else.
Well, in the next Buy, Hold, Sell, we're going to have a live look-in at the job interview for between Josh and Toby. But that's for the audience later on. So on behalf of Josh Pantony and Tobin Smith, I am Todd Schoenberger. Thank you once again for joining us on Buy, Hold, Sell. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
Buy, Hold, Sell, brought to you by CrossCheck Management.